Silver's doing everything we believe it should be doing, and doing so very getting more volatile, it has to be said. And I think some of that has got to do with the fact that we've had a little bit of light trading markets in the lead up to Christmas, post-Christmas, and the lead up now of New Year. So we're recording this on the 31st of December. Happy New Year to everybody by the time they watch this. And my overall take is that we're getting a little spike in volatility. I do want to highlight that silver margins for speculation have jumped twice. It may be worth, I can talk through this. I don't suppose I have to screen share for that, but we're on the 5,000 ounce contracts, the COMEX 5,000 ounce contracts. You are at 20K. They then upped it to 25. And they've now upped the 25 to 32.5. So that's a case of two back-to-back increases that have essentially taken you from 20,000 to 32,500 in total. That additional 12,500 is about 62.5% that you've had in quite short succession in two separate moves. So that will have caused a bit of chop. I would argue there's a couple of interesting things going on, and it becomes a question of which is the real market. And my opinion is that the Shanghai is now the real market for silver. It may be worth sharing the differences. There is a premium between the COMEX and the Western world's pricing, all aspects of Western world pricing versus Shanghai. And I would say also that an immense amount of delivery seems to be taking place. That's the other thing that's happened that's driven this, in that there is real. So here's the difference in a sense between gold's performance and silver's performance for me. Gold is the banner for the debasement of debt and fiat. And you've got out of that a catch-up year of 70%. Because we've been debasing slowly for a lengthy period, and we've actually had gold and silver suppression where it wasn't allowed to catch up. It should have been linear. Every year you lose, you were experiencing 3-5% inflation. You should have had a 5% move in gold and silver. But for decades, it hasn't been like that. So here's the great gift that you're getting.
Francis Hunt says silver's 140% surge reflects a structural shift, not just debasement. Shanghai now sets the real price via physical demand, trading $4 to $5 above COMEX. Stocks haven't risen in real terms. Everything is collapsing against sound money. Silver targets triple digits. Prepared investors win. The unprepared lose. Thanks for watching. Give a thumbs up and subscribe to Fine Metals for the latest insights.
We're in, it is a spiritual war. It is a good versus evil war. And my guidance and my compass for navigating this area, it's not for me to project and tell other people how they should behave morally, but I say, determine your principles and stick to them, and expect them to become harder and harder to adhere to, especially if they're noble ones. Do what you say, be honorable, be honest, be straightforward, all of these things. And I've even spoken about the duality of morality, which is how you should have absolute integrity and morality towards a fellow human who is honest and forthright to you. And you should actually be prepared to be entirely duplicitous towards institutions, governments who are quite clearly part of the inversion perversion. It doesn't help you be the honest fool at the poker table, because they're going to have all your chips and all your money. You owe it to yourself to survive. You owe it to your family to succeed here. And you should set up structures and be opaque. And you should recognize you also owe it to yourself to survive. You're not some martyr that just gets to be hammered and have all his stuff taken off him. And this is a wealth strip. It is an absolute power game. People see themselves as future demigods with power over the right to live and die, and how you live and die in terms of the freedom. This is an inversion perversion game that is the world as we come. And by disarming you of valid money that people accept, they leave you absolutely victim to the wind. And I use the word disarm for many reasons, because many are being disarmed physically from ownership of firearms, but also financially disarmed and everything. They have you right where they want you, the UBI, the social score, you will comply or you will die. That's kind of how threatening these people are, and how much they aspire to that power over you and that demigodness. So there's a lot going on in there. Bringing it slightly closer to the markets, you mentioned war, Venezuela, and various other aspects. They are trying to mask the inflation. So first they lied about the labor numbers. We said, as we always did, that you were in a recession during 21, 22, 23. We were talking about the recession. And now it's quite clear and obvious we're in a recession. We're talking about the next cycle. You have to be ahead of the game, not behind the game.
And do you think moving forward more and more into the future, we're going to see the Shanghai price be the one that really reflects the true value of the underlying metal?
I think any place that is doing actual delivery on the highest level, as always with technical analysis, they will always say, volume is an endorsement. It's like a number of voters for a certain price. If you have a very thinly traded item, I could list a family held company where me and my family members hold 95% of the equity, and we have an IPO with a very minor amount, and we let the market push it around. And at any point we can whale in and buy up our own remaining 5%, or we can dump it. That changes the entire market cap valuation, including for the 95%. So we'll always say to you, volume, true volume is an endorsement for the price. Thin volume is not necessarily as strong an endorsement on the price. So in the case of silver, I'll say where the bulk of the delivery is taking place. That said, it would not be accurate to just say that COMEX and LBM are just paper markets, because what's actually happening is delivery is being called for there too. But you do still have this premium. It's worth possibly showing that. So this is the Chinese contract adjusted from Chinese yuan to dollars and adjusted to ounces from kilograms. That AG, this formula you see up here. So I'm talking up top here. AG1 with the interrogation mark is the front end contract on the futures market. That is the USD to the Chinese yuan adjustment, because obviously in Shanghai it's in yuan. And so there's a currency rate in that. And then that 32.150747 is me being a little bit OCD to the umpteenth degree on the conversion of kilograms to ounces. So metric system to the accepted. So this brings this chart over here to being the leading chart. Our view is everybody is measuring everything in the wrong measurement tool. The measurement tool is non-standard and is not static. So we start every conversation with saying you're in a fiat and debt debasement crisis. It isn't slowly anymore where it's marginal, that you don't have to worry about the implement of your measuring tool. It's a bit like you have a thermometer that tells you the temperature, and it's getting older and older, and slowly it becomes a little bit more vague, or like a watch that tells the time, and it drops a few seconds every year. We've had that watch. It's been dropping a few seconds a year, but broadly it's accurate, providing you're not trying to, set a, TV schedule to it. You just want to be roughly on time for meetings. Your old watch that has been dropping a few seconds every year is fine. That's what how the dollar has been historically. What's happened now is you're now in the convexity curve where the watch is now dropping 30 minutes a day. It's no longer telling you the right hour even. You way off. This is the dollar and the fiat debasement, how you should frame it. You're in the Ernest Hemingway rollover, things happen very fast phase. Because trust and confidence is gone, which is why we're talking about silver and gold in the first place. So to then talk about the stock market, you have to recognize you're talking about the stock market on monkeys on greased poles, currencies, where they're slipping into the crocodile pits at the bottom. No matter how much they scamper, the harder they scamper in some ways, the faster they're slipping down. So in my worldview, when I look at the charts and I go to, let's just talk about the Dow Jones, for example, just take a long-standing index that you can get a lot of history from. If you divide this guy, and let's go up on a weekly basis, everybody will say, wow, it looks a great year, you know, that you've had. Let me get that menu out the way. Go monthly, etc. There's your 12 months. They look like they're
Could
all
you share
been
your
mod-
screen, Francis?
Yes, indeed. Apologies. So that's the Dow on the left. I'm just going to try, see, TradingView did something super sexy and merged the two charts there. Let's just do just the Dow. If I divide that by gold and say, but no, your new benchmark for catch-up of the overall debasement of the dollar is a gold ounce, and that is your unit of account. Your unit of account has been damaged. The only time stocks were really a massively superior investment in the recent genre, most of our life, Jesse, was in the 80s, in 1913 and before, even in when you were far more stable and there was no central bank. If we do this, you can see I've annotated this chart many times before. Here's the creation of the Fed in that blue box. So again, I'll use the pink to highlight with, that's the creation of the Fed. You were far more stable before the Fed creation. The Fed got created after the Titanic sunk and certain people went down with it, but not JP Morgan. It got created, the creature from Jekyll Island happened, you rolled straight into the First World War. You rolled next into, they really got going. It ran into the Bolshevik Revolution of the greatest slaughter of Christian Orthodox citizens ever. Many of them came, the Bolsheviks, from Georgia and were Ashkenazi, and they absolutely slaughtered and starved. People have the numbers at about 25 to 60 million. Then you went into World War II in the 30s. So the minute the Federal Reserve was created, you began to have the Dow versus gold ounces volatility increase. They didn't bring stability. They brought war, conflict, funding for war, debasement of fiat, and this massive broadening structure that brings us to today. And you have gone through pumps and dumps. This is this broadening structure. So you had the proliferation of credit, the roaring 20s. You tapped out, you got slammed, Great Depression. Each time they steal more of your wealth because they are the buyers when the blood is in the street, and they are the pumpers of liquidity to get everybody chasing in like a mania into the stock market booms. Jesse Livermore, the whole story was built on the roaring 20s into those great 30s. Read the book Plunger Boy. It's even better than Edwin Lefebvre's version, in my opinion. You then had the gold and the Dow come down to 1.88. These purple numbers, how many ounces you needed to buy one basket of the Dow? At 1.18.63, then 1/10 later. Then you got the Dow going up. It took until this date before you took out the highs of the roaring 20s. Most of this was just recovery. In gold ounce terms, be smart, don't be a martyr. I'll never tell you do things illegally, but differentiate between morality and legality, because eventually all acts of morality will be illegal, and only all laws of complete perversion will be written up as legal. And that is the inversion perversion. That is it explained. That is our catchphrase that we regularly mention. And thanks for asking the question, because in this time, you have to prepare for that fact. And actually, the sad fact is truth and principle is being pursued by the Grand South in terms of money. Sadly, a lot of the other agenda items will be there. There's no perfect place in the world of countries that we have as a selection, but there's certainly zone 1 of the earthquake and zone 10. And I suggest get away from the epicenter as far as you can, because it is coming. And not just precious metals point of view, that's part of your money and your balance sheet, but it is coming at every other level. Unnecessary wars, conscription, entrapment of your wealth in nations, exit tax, unrealized capital gains tax. The death of the debt market means they cannot have the bottomless overdraft they are accustomed to for their nefarious activities. The money sent to Ukraine, they're stealing half of it. It's being kicked back. It's an absolute cacocracy globally, and particularly Western world. You've got to do everything to save yourself as if you exist on your own, build community, do all these things.